Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is the second installment amongst the 4 Uncharted games. This game was released in October 2009 by Naughty Dog exclusively on PlayStation. The Uncharted series is my favorite ever, with Uncharted 2 being my go-to in the lineup. The game holds multiple Game of the Year awards and sits at a 96% on Metacritic. Uncharted thrives on its story and incredible set pieces. It's essentially a blockbuster movie that you can play. In Uncharted 2, the main character, Nathan Drake, is betrayed by an old friend when searching for a lost treasure. Throughout the story, Nathan is racing the enemy to be the first to find this treasure. It's not anything new plot-wise, but there are some twists added in order to keep you on your toes. One interesting aspect is that Nate is working with Chloe through most of the story, but she is also affiliated with the enemy. She tries to play a double agent in favor of Nate, but as usual, that idea doesn't turn out well. Eventually, Nate learns that they are searching for Shangri-La to find a mystical stone. The story ends with Drake finding the treasure and facing off against the bad guy. While the story is not anything groundbreaking, it is pretty impressive for a video game to build a successful story with compelling gameplay interleaved. A lot of games seem to put the story to the side and focus on other aspects of the game, but Naughty Dog takes pride in their storytelling along with their gameplay. In 2013, Naughty Dog released The Last of Us, which tells a story powerful enough to make a grown man cry. While there are emotional sections, Uncharted 2 doesn't go for as much of an emotional appeal, but instead works towards more of an adventure vibe. As mentioned earlier, the set pieces in this game are what makes it truly special. Every Uncharted game has epic moments where the world is falling apart around Nate and he escapes by the skin of his teeth. What makes these so great in Uncharted 2 is that they never feel forced, so oftentimes you won't even see it coming. The train sequence is probably my favorite from any video game. There's so many dynamics working together at once. There's men shooting at you, while at the same time you're trying to avoid obstacles and helicopters. As crazy as this all is, it isn't a hard game to play. Any casual gamer can pick up this game and have fun, because the mechanics are pretty simple. When controlling Drake, the left stick makes a move while the right stick controls the camera. This is a standard button mapping for any game where the player controls a character. However, there are some unordinary controls in the game. For example, the button to throw a grenade is L1, while in most shooters, the grenade button is R1. This layout can make the game difficult at times because there is a mechanic where the player can throw a grenade where they're looking as long as they're aiming the gun somewhere. The problem with this is that if you're aiming your gun, you're using the L2 button, and players usually only have one finger around the L1 and L2 button at a time. This becomes less of a problem once the player gets comfortable with it, but it's a design choice that's a bit puzzling because Naughty Dog could have easily mapped the controls to the industry standard. There are some helpful features as well. Because the game is played from an over-the-shoulder perspective, Nate's body will sometimes get in the way of where you're trying to shoot. In order to fix this problem, the player can press L3 by clicking the left stick and switch the camera to the opposite shoulder. Newer players might not take full advantage of this tactic, but if it's applied often and effectively, it will lead to better performance results. The gameplay in Uncharted is linear, which means the player must follow the story as it is laid out for them. Shoot the bad guys in this area, move forward, jump over some gaps, shoot more bad guys, and so on. It doesn't feel this repetitive when you're actually playing the game, but when it's broken down it is a pretty basic pattern. The player has the freedom to manage combat however they please, by utilizing stealth or taking on enemies guns blazing. Regardless of the combat decision, the outcome will be the same. Uncharted 2 is the best game I've ever played. I cannot tell you how many playthroughs I've done, but I'm sure there will be more. The aging of this game has started to show a little bit, especially since Uncharted 4 just released in 2016 with new features and refined mechanics. But it is still a very playable and enjoyable game. If you own a PS3 and haven't played this game yet, you need to. It's also available on PS4 in the Nathan Drake collection, which is where the gameplay for this video was taken.